Trump's big, beautiful budget bill. This budget that Trump is putting forward, that's now in the House of Representatives, is going to be what Trump essentially wants to do is give $4 trillion in tax cuts to the very rich and people who are higher income. This is all a continuation from his first administration. He's just continuing what he did, and he's increasing the tax cuts. And to fund these tax cuts, he is cutting, he is, first of all, raising the profits made on endowments at colleges. The Republicans have been attacking colleges, obviously, like Harvard and places like that don't like Trump, that, colleges, and this isn't just universities like Harvard or Yale or anything. This will affect technical colleges. This will affect state colleges, little colleges in your community. That tax rate is going up from 1.4% to 21%. So it'll be more difficult for these schools to fund their operations. It will be hard. They will be giving less scholarships out, and it will be a chilling effect of educating the poor and the working classes. He wants to also cut Medicaid by $900 billion. 1 in every 4 American, most of them are children, are on Medicaid. This Medicaid, of course, is the state-funded one. Medicare is straight federal. But he wants to cut $900 billion from Medicaid. And he wants to put rules in to see if you can actually work and see if they want you to work if you're going to receive Medicaid. Or you have to prove that you're so disabled that you can't. It's going to make it more difficult for people to get benefits. They've already changed a lot of the rules with Social Security and Medicare. When you call, you can't make changes over the phone anymore, which you used to be able to. And a lot of people use that because, let's be honest, a lot of elderly people are not tech savvy. They don't have computers. They don't like computers. They don't use computers. And so this is going to make it, of course, going after the most vulnerable in our society. He's also going to cut SNAP benefits by $100 billion. And this is, of course, SNAP benefits are used not only as a safety net for poor people and the working classes so they can actually, eat, but it's also used as a subsidy for big agri. This also helps Archer Daniel Midland. This also helps America's dairy producers. It's why SNAP benefits give you so much milk. It's why you get so much milk on these programs, because it's a subsidy for those industries. He was cutting that. There's also going to be massive clean energy cuts. One of the things that they want to get rid of is any kind of alternative energy sources. This is the pushback to coal and fossil fuels instead of using, and a lot of power companies throughout, even in Trump eras, are saying, we don't have enough. Coal is not enough. We need to offset it with clean energy, with solar panels, with wind farms. And it's working. But the propaganda campaign against them through fictional television shows like Landman, which is the Taylor Sheridan movie, which tells you that solar panels and wind farms are a joke and we should just forget about them, when actually energy companies are saying the exact opposite. They're saying that they're very helpful. And of course, they'll get you with transmission lines, and they'll get you with infrastructure, and they'll make all those arguments and be like, and you'll say to yourself, well, then this clean energy doesn't seem to be paying for itself. No, it would pay for itself. And we would all have cheaper energy, and we'd all have easily more available energy. When you're making a solar panel, it's obvious compared to mining coal, the differences. And then the other thing they're going to cut is, they want to make it harder for access to student loans. They're already doing it, and they want to get rid of Pell Grants. Pell Grants, of course, are for the poorest people in our society so they can have money, not only the money that they borrow, those loans, but Pell Grants are grants. You don't pay them back. I personally got Pell Grants because I qualified financially when I was in my 40s to go back to college and try to better myself. And this is going to affect the poor and working classes. This is obviously MAGA targeting minorities and the poorest in our society. They want to keep them in their place. They want to make them suffer. They want to make them not be able to go to college and become critical thinkers and become adults and look at what Trump is doing and look at our society and say, this is not a good thing. It's not a good thing what Republicans are doing and conservatives are doing. It's a bad thing and it's very detrimental to our society. This is not a country with 50 million people. This is a country with 330 million people and growing. Excuse me. And we need large government to offset against the forces of evil, which are corporations, and particularly these tech fucks, from NVIDIA to OpenAI to Elon Musk. You need a robust federal government to fight against this technocracy that they want to bring in, this techno-feudalism that Yanis Varoufakis talks about. He just wrote a book about it, and others. But anyway, this will inevitably increase the debt, our federal debt. It'll raise it by, many estimates are trillions of dollars. It'll increase our debt. This also goes into the increased military budget, the giving of $1 trillion to the military when they don't even ask for these raises, because they don't have to ask for these raises in their budgets. And of course, this is trickle-down economics. This is the same bullshit that George Bush did, or George Bush called out Ronald Reagan out in 1980. It's in the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Another, not only with the Holly Smoot tariffs, but they also talk about voodoo, anyone, voodoo, anyone, economics. And that's what Reaganomics was. Tax cuts for the very, very, very rich and the rich, and increased military spending. And you will inevitably lead to higher debt. This is nothing Republican. Well, this is Republican because this is what Republicans have been scamming the American people for the last 50 years, 40 plus years. And the wealthy, when you give, it's been shown time and time again, when you give the people at the top tax breaks, tax cuts, they don't reinvest in productivity. They're not building new manufacturing warehouses. They're not creating jobs. They buy stocks, they buy land, and they buy companies. That's what they do with their money. They don't spend it and they don't invest. They just don't. And this has been shown over and over and over again in many different economic models and many different books, many different studies. This is well known. And the Republicans know this. Conservatives know this. They just don't care. They're greedy and they don't care. And they want you to suffer. And this all, what's really going to end up happening at the end of the day, when you're starting to see all these tech bros talk about, well, there's $50 trillion market if we can just get robots into factories around the world. So the robots will take over the working class jobs, and artificial intelligence, which is already happening, is taking over middle class jobs. How many have we seen of these customer service jobs? And I'm not saying customer service jobs are middle class per se. Some are, some aren't. But most of them aren't. But what they're really doing with the AI, have we seen all these managers? Like you're doing an interview, somebody's doing an interview for a job, and it's like a manager, and it's AI, it's artificial intelligence. That's only going to increase. You won't have project managers anymore. You won't have anybody. You won't have account managers anymore, because they will all be managed by AI. AI will be talking to AI, telling AI what to do with other AI. And then they'll program the robots, and human beings will suffer further, and poor and working class people will suffer. And the middle class will start to feel this because they can't enclave them. They can't create enclaves and gate themselves off from us forever. Like they just can't. And there's too many working class people. And this bill, this big, beautiful bill, is a bill of cruelty. It's a bill of a form of austerity for no reason. And cutting social programs and not allowing people to have economic mobility concerning college. College was never free. You always had to pay it back. You can't declare if you declare bankruptcy, your student loan debt is still there. You can't erase it. So this is an assault on the working classes to keep them in their fucking place. This is to keep you so you don't ever think of any sort of you look at the government and the government is in your way. That's how conservatives think about it. The government for us, the working class, the poor, lower middle classes, the government can be a functional important thing in our lives, particularly when we don't have socialized medicine. We don't have a guaranteed retirement other than Social Security. We don't have a government-run pensions. We don't have time off of work, like France does or other countries that have a socialism built into it, and they allow people to be 3 months off for having children, a woman to have time with her babies and not to be charged for having babies, and all of this stuff. And what it's going to end up doing, it's going to end up making, this is going to end up making us poorer and more racist. And how does that work with the racism? Pretty easy. When you're suffering, when you're a poor white guy, Lyndon Johnson said this in the 60s, that it's easy to convince a poor white guy to hit a poor black guy if you can convince that white person that black person is a threat to you economically. That somehow that black person or minority is getting something you're not getting. So then, instead of you wanting a rising tide to lift all boats, you start to say things like, well, why do they blah, 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 blah? Well, why do they get blah, blah? And it's, of course, tale as old as time. It's divide and conquer. And this will constantly keep us, the poor and working classes, fighting with each other. Because we're Americans, we'll take shit. We'll literally take a big spoon, a big ladle, and we'll shovel shit into our mouths because that's how Americans are. And instead of the poor and working classes getting together and saying, no more of this, we're done. We don't know how to do that because there's no history of the left in America. This is a right-wing country with two wings, a conservative country with two right wings. And there's nobody to help us. There's no politicians to help us. We are on our own. And this budget, the cruelty of it, the staggering amount of just at least with Republicans, you could kind of see that they were trying to cut debt. They're not even interested in cutting debt anymore. They're on the Titanic and they are taking the paintings off the wall and stuffing them in bags and throwing them into life rafts and getting off of the Titanic. America is for sale. And this has been going on for a long time. 2017, 2018, 2019. I have a friend of mine who's a day trader. And he was telling me in 2016, why aren't you investing? And I was like, well, I don't really invest. I don't feel comfortable with it. I'm not good at it. I don't like worrying about money. I don't enjoy money. Money does not make me happy. And he was like, dude, they're stripping this country and selling it off. This was 2016 when he told me this. This was before COVID. And it's just continuing to happen. And conservatives who don't care about anything more than their own families and their own fortunes don't care. Their greed cannot be sated. There's never enough for them. Their goal is more. That's Trump's goal in life. He's fucking 80 years old. He's going to be dead soon. And he's still selling out as much as he can. He's taking money. Took a $400 million jet from Qatar. He is fucking taking gifts. He is pumping and dumping fucking cryptocurrency. This is a man who has nothing to offer the world but the fact that he has a lot of money and he knows it. And he has controlled, and now because he's president, you can't even have the media question him anymore. I mean, back in the day, at least Barbara Walters held him accountable when he was just a slumlord in New York and a piece of shit that he was. The media can't even hold him accountable anymore because he calls Caitlin Collins from CNN a nasty person. And everyone's attacking him and he's the victim. And so this big, beautiful bill is a nightmare for the economics of America. And there's problems in America before Donald Trump, believe you me. We all know that. But this is an absolute assault on working class and minorities. This is racism. It's also classism. And the working classes better wake the fuck up because it's not going to get any easier the next few years. Thank you for listening.